Imagine getting charged for a murder and being sentenced to life without parole, but you didn't commit this murder. In fact, you were wrongly framed for it. And you had not one, not two, but 19 alibi witnesses backing you up, including photo evidence of where you were. However, one man's statement, who was an actual suspect to this crime, but had political power over you, is what put you behind bars. A girl recently reached out to me saying that her uncle had been convicted for a murder that he did not commit. I asked to know more about his case, and both his girlfriend and also 3 Georgetown students who have been working extensively on his case sent me so many documents backing up this man's innocence. This is the Melvin Ortiz case. On December 23rd of 1997, 2 masked gunmen entered Effie's Pizza Villa, which is located in Reading, Pennsylvania. The owner, George Clauser, was cleaning as they walked in. The 2 assailants told everybody to get down, and George was shot in the back. He was then directed by one of the gunmen to open up the cash register, but he obviously couldn't after being shot, so the gunmen fled the scene and George was soon pronounced dead. Part 2 to the Melvin Ortiz case. So a similar robbery had occurred at this same pizza villa 2 weeks prior. The police had absolutely no leads, but they were hoping an eyewitness would point them in the right direction. The police came to this crime scene and stayed for maybe an hour, and they found no physical evidence, no fingerprints, but a bullet casing was found hours later by an employee while cleaning, which is sloppy work on their part. They had no leads, nothing, but one of the police officers had a close relationship with the victim, so he was desperate to find someone. A $10,000 reward was released, and that's when people started calling. All legitimate leads were tossed away, except for one man's, John Caltagirone. He was the son of a former Pennsylvania state representative who had an extensive criminal record history, but never really got in trouble due to the Caltagirone's political power. Even though he barely knew Melvin, he said that Melvin had confessed to him. So where was Melvin during the murder? Well, George was murdered at 7:30 p.m., but from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m., Melvin was at a toddler's birthday party, 20 minutes away from the crime scene. Part 3 to the Melvin Ortiz case. So during the time the crime was committed, Melvin was at a birthday party for a toddler 20 minutes away with 19 alibi witnesses there, along with actual photos to prove it. Melvin was 17 years old. He had recently signed up for a program at Job Corps in Pennsylvania to be taught different trades and skills so that he could be certified and get a job. He wanted to get his life on track and make his parents proud. But he came back that December in 1997 to spend Christmas with his family, and he says it's one of his biggest regrets. A day after being set up, he decided that he was going to just turn himself in. He was very confident because he had such a solid alibi. He thought it was a misunderstanding, it would all get sorted out. But after going in that day to prove his innocence, he hasn't come out since. And he has been in prison for 23 years. The second gunman was never sought after, found, or convicted. So what happened during the trial? Well, Detective Grau was the lead detective who had a reputation for playing dirty, and he ended up coercing 2 witnesses to come forward. The first person he threatened was Tina and told her if she didn't come forward, he would put her in the foster care system. Part 4 to the Melvin Ortiz case, the trial. So a little backstory on Tina, she was actually dating John Caltagirone. She was 15 at the time, he was her older boyfriend. At trial, she stated that she overheard Melvin confess to John. The other girl that was threatened by the detective was named Cynthia Jacks. The detective had threatened to take her kid away. And the third witness was a 30-year-old jailhouse snitch with a record of providing false accounts to the police. Only 4 of the alibi witnesses were allowed to testify. The other 15 were just acquaintances and had no reason to lie for him. And they had already told police that Melvin was at the party. But in the end, he was declared guilty. Well, in 2018, Tina took back her whole testimony. Not only did she take back her statement, but she also implicated herself in the crime. The night of the murder, John drove her to her house whenever he was supposed to be at work. And they lived a block from Effie's. He made her pick up a bag behind her couch that contained a hoodie, a mask, and a gun, and then told her to throw this bag into the river. Tina was 15 and pregnant at the time. John had pressured her to say that it was Melvin. Part 5 to the Melvin Ortiz case. So what about Cynthia Jacks? Well, John had promised her $10,000 to run away to Mexico and said to her that he had made up Melvin's involvement. She was murdered about 20 years ago, so it's her word against John's at this point. But I also want to point out that at the trial, John's criminal history was never brought up. Pretty much all of his charges were dismissed due to his father's political clout. Not to mention that his father was buddy-buddies with several of the judges on Melvin's case. To add this additional part, on September 23rd of 1997, 3 months before the Effie's incident, a man called the police saying that there were 3 masked men outside of a brown Ford Bronco registered to John Caltagirone. And this vehicle was not stolen. Not to mention, John's own niece is on TikTok. She also states that Melvin needs to be free, and that both her grandfather and her uncle need to be held accountable. I also forgot to bring up that the one eyewitness that was at Effie's that night during the murder testified stating that Melvin was not either of the gunmen. So, who was the other gunman that night? Part 6 to the Melvin Ortiz case. So the second gunman had never been found, and after the trial, a man named Gary went to the Ortiz home. and he came forward with information about his brother. Jesus Colon Lopez had confessed to him that he had killed George. He also went by Junior. He had meant to tell the police that so Melvin would be set free, but after an 11-hour standoff with the police, he took his own life before he could do that. And the only other person that knows information about this is Junior's sister, and she refuses to speak. And the Ford Bronco that was reported in the last part was outside of Junior's house. Tina taking back her statement was denied as evidence. She believes that this is still due to the power of John's father. Melvin has tried to petition for post-conviction collateral relief 6 times. Every time he has been denied. The Free Melvin Ortiz team is tagged below. His website along with his petition is on my Linktree. You can also go check out my Instagram. I'm going to have a lot more information on there as well. And I will have a YouTube together for you guys soon. Not only has the justice system deprived a family of knowing who their true killer was, but they wrongfully put a man behind bars in the process. The TV show Black Mirror is genuinely one of the scariest shows that I've ever seen. But what if some of its storylines actually started to come true? Since the episode Nosedive, where you basically leave people Google reviews, we've seen the potential introduction of social credit over in China, and we don't quite have drones the size of bees yet, but people at Harvard are currently trying to make them. And for contacts with cameras, Samsung actually ended up getting a patent for smart contacts. But one of the most prevalent storylines that's actually trending today is the episode with Miley Cyrus in it. In this episode, she plays a singer named Ashley O, and she's famous for her sound, her look, her originality, and even though she seems happy on the inside, she's very miserable. She's being given medication illegally to stabilize her mood, and it gets to the point where her management has so much control that it really isn't even her anymore. And I remember watching this and thinking how sad this would be, and would we even know if a celebrity was going through this? And then we had the introduction of the Free Britney movement. And so many of Britney's fans were able to identify that she was in trouble before she announced to the public. So how did we even get to knowing that Britney was in trouble? Well, a few fans here and there had talked about it briefly, whether it was a celebrity or a fan. The first time it was really mentioned was 2017 on a podcast called Britney's Gram. It was there to dissect Britney Spears' Instagram account, which there was a lot of weird things on. For example, she was putting a lot of timestamps on her Instagram photos, almost as if she was leaving some sort of a paper trail. And a lot of her photos were representative of her being locked up in a metaphorical sense. Like this photo right here says, "I put myself in a timeout until I can play nice with others. This may take a while," and the caption says, "A while? How about a decade?" Well, in 2020, there was a video of her that went viral on TikTok of her supporting LGBTQIA+. People were a little concerned about how she was behaving, and they told her if she needed help to wear yellow in her next video. And guess what? She wore yellow, so people commented to wear blue in her next video. And she responded by wearing blue. So everyone started to wonder about her conservatorship. Who was controlling her? Why did she need help? And why does her paperwork say she has dementia? So how can someone complete 4 world tours, record 4 albums, while also performing and selling out an entire Las Vegas show, while her paperwork says she has dementia? In 2008, Britney was placed under a temporary conservatorship at the age of 26. She had her famous breakdown that became household news overnight on January 4th of 2008. She had really hit rock bottom and was going through her custody dispute with Kevin Federline, and then was locked up again around January 31st. And this particular psych hospital that she was taken to had less than the best reviews. And this is when her conservatorship became permanent, due to her being unfit to take care of herself. Yet 2 months in, she ended up showing up for a role on How I Met Your Mother, and then wiped the floors at the VMAs, winning all the awards. In 2009, she had her circus tour, and a voicemail between her and her lawyer was leaked, saying that she desperately wanted to get out of this conservatorship, but that her father was threatening her. She did her Femme Fatale tour next, and then in 2012, she was an X Factor judge. Yet she was still deemed too unfit to take care of herself. Part 4 to Free Britney. So Britney had even tried to bring up her conservatorship on the Jonathan Ross show, but that part was cut. And in 2016, people noticed that she posted a photo with Hillary using the hashtag I'm with her, but then had to remove it, which turned out later because she couldn't vote. And after that, she was supposed to perform for her new Domination show, but then announced that she couldn't go due to her father's health issues, which it later turned out that her father, Jamie, had actually canceled the show because she wasn't taking her new medication. So once he pulled it, he told her to just blame it on his health issues. And his own grandson ended up coming on to Alive and talking about how awful he is. And in April of 2020, she was sent back to a mental health facility, which the anonymous paralegal who gave information to the podcast said that she had been forced there between mid-January all the way up to April. And then Kevin Federline ended up charging Jamie Spears for allegedly abusing one of their kids. And because he's Britney's conservator, she ended up only having 30% visitation with her kids because he basically owns her. And after the documentary came out, she said she was embarrassed, but was that really Britney? Part 5 to Free Britney. Well, as we've stated, she's had very weird stuff on her Instagram, but it seems as though midway through the content changed, and someone by the name of Cassie Petrie, who's her social media manager, has been posting for her. At least we know some of the time, maybe not all the time. And then on June 23rd, as we all heard, Britney broke her silence. She came out and shared everything that she's been through under her conservatorship to the courts. 13 years of her rights have been fully taken away. She can't have a baby, she can't get married, she can't take out her IUD. She's forced to work even when sick, can't even change her own kitchen cabinets. And whenever she actually tried to set up boundaries, she was put on lithium. Which I didn't know much about this drug, but this is what the holistic psychologist on Instagram said about it. Basically, no one is actually looking out for her mental health, and everyone is banking on her payroll. From her parents to her sister to everyone in her circle. And if you want to hear more about her sister, Jamie Lynn Spears, go to my Instagram, go to my middle reels tab, and I'm going to be talking about all the stuff that she's gotten into, because there seems to be such a double standard in this family. Britney's father is an alcoholic and abusive, yet he's been deemed fit to take care of her. Last part to free Britney. So since all of this has come out, there has been a huge public reaction and an overwhelming amount of support. Iggy Azalea even came out and said how she was a witness to this behavior, and she was even invited to testify before Congress. Christina Aguilera released this statement about her, and as we've been watching her Instagram again lately, we've seen that she's been on a trip, yet these photos have been used for her previously a year ago. So it's probably just Cassie running her account. Really, Britney just needs healing and support right now, and I'm sure there's going to be even more updates by the time I come out with this video. And this whole story really shows the importance of autonomy. There's other celebrities like Amanda Bynes who are also under conservatorships, and we really don't know how bad those are. The court system seemed to be just so messed up, so people talking about it and actually providing social pressure helps. So we'll continue to talk about it, and hopefully it'll save Britney.